I still remember the words as if they were etched into my brain. "You have no talent, you'll never make it." He didn't just say it once. He said it every time I showed him my work. My high school drama teacher, Mr. Callahan, who everyone else adored, looked at me with thinly veiled annoyance whenever I tried to present an idea or perform a scene. "Stop wasting your time," he'd mutter, and the words hit harder than any physical blow could. I had been obsessed with creating content, shooting short videos on my phone, editing them late at night in my small bedroom. My friends thought it was cute, but Mr. Callahan's words had a weight that made me doubt every decision. I questioned myself constantly. Maybe I really wasn't talented. Maybe my ideas were trivial. Maybe I was fooling myself. Every dismissal felt like a brick in a wall built around my confidence. Yet despite the crushing negativity, I couldn't stop. There was a spark in me, a stubborn flame that refused to die out. I poured my nights into experimenting with video content, recording short skits, funny challenges, and small sketches that made me laugh. I had no audience, no encouragement, and no guidance, but the act of creating itself became a form of resistance. I was determined to prove something, not to him, not to anyone, but to myself. My first attempts were clumsy. Awkward camera angles, shaky shots, and sound that barely carried. I would spend hours planning a sketch, only to realize I had filmed it in poor lighting or with my phone accidentally rotated sideways. But each mistake taught me something: pacing, timing, editing tricks, and storytelling. The small victories, the laughter from friends, the smiles in my mirror, kept me going even when his words echoed louder than applause. By the time I graduated high school, I had amassed dozens of videos, none of which had ever gone beyond my small circle of friends. Social media was my only outlet. I would upload a short clip to YouTube or TikTok, watch it get a few likes, and feel a pang of disappointment. The algorithms ignored me. People ignored me. The world seemed to confirm Mr. Callahan's harsh assessment. It was a Friday night when the breakthrough happened. I had filmed a comedic sketch inspired by an awkward encounter at a coffee shop. I uploaded it, expecting the usual, a handful of views, maybe a comment or two from a friend. Within hours, it exploded. Notifications started buzzing relentlessly. Views climbed into the thousands, then tens of thousands, and by morning it had gone viral. People were sharing it, tagging friends, and commenting on how funny and relatable it was. I couldn't believe it. I sat there in my small bedroom, staring at the screen as the numbers climbed. This is real," I whispered to myself. Every late night, every failed attempt, every harsh word from Mr. Callahan suddenly seemed like preparation for this exact moment. The world had noticed what he refused to see. But with virality came pressure. Suddenly, I was expected to replicate that success. Every video I uploaded afterward was scrutinized by a growing audience. Comments ranged from praise to criticism, from encouragement to jealousy. I had to learn quickly how to navigate this new world of social validation and digital attention. It wasn't enough to be funny or creative. I needed strategy, consistency, and a personal voice that people could connect with. My days became structured around content creation. I studied viral trends, dissected popular videos, and experimented with my own style. I discovered that timing, relatability, and authenticity mattered more than elaborate production or fancy equipment. My phone and my small editing software became instruments of experimentation. Each video taught me more about packing, storytelling, and audience engagement than any teacher ever had. As the months passed, my following grew exponentially. What had started as a personal hobby turned into something larger, something that could no longer be ignored. I started earning small sums through brand partnerships, YouTube monetization, and ad revenue. The financial independence was liberating, but the real victory was intangible. Proof to myself that talent wasn't measured by someone else's judgment, no matter how influential they seemed at the time. I never confronted Mr. Callahan directly about that viral video. I didn't need to. The validation wasn't about proving him wrong. It was about proving to myself that persistence, passion, and resilience could overcome doubt and criticism. But in the quiet moments, I allowed myself a small smile whenever I thought about what he had said. No talent. Maybe he had been wrong after all. By the end of that first year after going viral, I had created a system for producing content efficiently without losing creativity. I understood what resonated with viewers, how to build anticipation, and how to create moments that people would share. I had transformed from the insecure teenager who doubted herself into someone with direction, discipline, and an emerging voice that people respected online. And yet, I knew this was just the beginning. Virality had given me a platform, but it hadn't yet given me mastery, influence, or a sustainable career. If I wanted to truly prove myself, to show that my one viral video was not a fluke, I needed strategy, planning, and growth. It was time to take my talent beyond a single video and build something lasting, something even Mr. Callahan would be forced to acknowledge, whether he liked it or not. I looked at my reflection that night in the mirror, the glow of the laptop screen casting shadows across my face. I whispered to myself, "This is only the start. If they laughed at me before, they're about to see what I can really do." For the first time in years, doubt didn't feel suffocating. It felt like fuel. After that first viral video, the landscape of my life shifted almost overnight. Notifications flooded my phone nonstop. Emails from strangers, potential collaborators, even brands started pouring in. It was overwhelming but exhilarating. For the first time, I realized that talent, once dismissed, could become leverage. That one short clip had opened doors I didn't even know existed. I knew, however, that relying on luck or a single viral moment wouldn't sustain me. Virality was fleeting, trends changed, audiences moved on, and algorithms shifted without warning. I needed a plan, a strategy to transform my fleeting popularity into something permanent. I started studying other content creators who had made lasting impacts. What made them successful wasn't just their content. It was consistency, branding, and the ability to connect deeply with their audience. I set up a schedule for myself. Every morning, I brainstormed ideas, reviewed analytics from previous videos, and mapped out content that would resonate with my growing audience. Afternoons were reserved for filming, experimenting with new camera angles, lighting, and editing techniques. Nights were dedicated to engagement, responding to comments, connecting with followers, and learning from their feedback. Slowly, my hobby became a disciplined practice. With each video, my audience grew exponentially. Comments shifted from simple praise to genuine requests for advice, inspiration, and mentorship. I realized that people weren't just watching me, they were looking up to me. I had inadvertently positioned myself as a voice in a digital space that mattered. But this also came with pressure. The higher the audience, the higher the expectations. Every misstep could damage my reputation, but every well-executed video reinforced my credibility. Brands began reaching out for collaborations. At first, it was small, affiliate links, product shoutouts, but soon the proposals became more substantial. Companies wanted me to create campaigns, design content strategies, and help market products to my audience. It was the first time I earned money directly from what I loved to do. For the first time in years, I felt a real sense of independence. I was creating value, and people were recognizing it financially as well as socially. But money alone wasn't the goal. I wanted influence, a platform where my creativity dictated the rules. So I began experimenting with different genres of content: sketches, vlogs, tutorials, and even mini-documentaries. Each type of content taught me something new. I learned how humor could attract attention, how storytelling could retain engagement, and how authenticity could create trust. Slowly, I built not just an audience but a community. Despite this growing success, the shadow of my early critics lingered in my mind. Mr. Callahan's words, "no talent," still echoed occasionally. Not as a dagger, but as a challenge. Every time I uploaded a new video, I reminded myself of that teenage insecurity and used it as motivation. If they had laughed or dismissed me before, I was determined that they would have no choice but to acknowledge my success now. I also realized that the true power of my platform was influence. I didn't just want viewers, I wanted to inspire. I shared stories about my struggles, the nights spent editing until dawn, the rejections and self-doubt. The response was overwhelming. People messaged me, telling me that my honesty encouraged them to pursue their own dreams, even in the face of criticism. I understood then that virality wasn't just entertainment, it could be transformative. As my following expanded, opportunities for monetization became more sophisticated. I started selling branded merchandise, hosting online workshops, and even consulting for smaller content creators. I invested in equipment and learned advanced editing techniques, making each video sharper, more professional, and more engaging. My content started receiving media attention, with features in local newspapers, online publications, and eventually podcasts. My name began to carry weight. With this newfound influence came responsibility. I had to be careful with every word, every post. I realized that credibility was fragile, easily lost through carelessness or inconsistency. I became meticulous, not just about quality but about trust. My audience believed in me because I had proven myself through persistence, not just luck. And I made a promise to myself: I would never allow early critics, naysayers, or negativity to derail my trajectory again. It was during this period of rapid growth that I faced my first major challenge. A competitor, someone who had once been a friend, attempted to copy my style and claim credit for my ideas. Initially, it was infuriating. I felt the old sting of dismissal, the same kind of disbelief and frustration I felt when my videos were ignored in the past. But I didn't react impulsively. Instead, I documented my original work, released a strategically crafted video highlighting my unique approach, and reinforced my credibility publicly. The response was overwhelming, viewers rallied behind me, and my influence expanded even further. By the time my first year of virality had passed, I wasn't just the girl who made one viral video. I had built a recognizable brand, a system for creating content, and a loyal following who trusted me. I had turned ridicule into recognition, criticism into strategy, and doubt into determination. My audience didn't just watch me, they believed in me. And for the first time, I felt the weight of real power, the ability to create, inspire, and influence on a scale I had never imagined. The irony wasn't lost on me. The same people who had once laughed at my attempts to create, who had dismissed my ideas and mocked my ambition, were now watching me succeed from a distance. Some tried to reconnect, offering praise or congratulations. But I didn't seek validation from them. Their opinions no longer held power over me. I had built something that was undeniable, and it was mine entirely. That period of growth taught me an invaluable lesson. Talent is not measured by recognition, but by persistence, creativity, and resilience. One viral video didn't change my life on its own. It was the foundation for a journey I had constructed with discipline and vision. And now, as I prepared to expand my reach further, I knew that the real challenge wasn't just content creation. It was scaling influence, building a sustainable career, and proving that my talent was not a fluke, but a force that could not be ignored. Looking back, I could see the trajectory clearly. From the insecure teenager whose teacher laughed at her ideas to a young adult commanding a digital platform that mattered. That first viral video was just the beginning, the spark that ignited a fire I would use to build a lasting empire. The journey ahead was full of opportunities, obstacles, and unexpected twists, but I knew one thing for certain: I would never be dismissed again. Just when I thought my momentum couldn't be interrupted, the first major obstacle appeared. It started subtly, small hints that someone was trying to undermine me. Videos of mine were getting shadow banned, collaborations mysteriously canceled, and whispers began circulating online suggesting that I had stolen ideas from other creators. At first, I panicked. The insecurity that had haunted me for years resurfaced, creeping into my thoughts like an unwelcome visitor. But panic wasn't an option. I reminded myself that my success wasn't luck. It was the result of months of hard work, planning, and creativity. I started investigating quietly, reaching out to my network to find the source of the sabotage. It turned out to be someone I had once trusted, a former collaborator who resented my growing influence and thought they could hijack my trajectory. The betrayal cut deep, but it also lit a fire I couldn't ignore. I knew I had to respond strategically. Reacting with emotion would only give them an upper hand. So I created a plan. Every piece of content I released had to be flawless, backed by clear documentation proving originality and authorship. I tightened my production schedule, implemented watermarks, and kept meticulous records of every script, storyboard, and edit. Slowly, the sabotage attempts lost their power. My audience recognized authenticity, and trust in my brand only grew stronger. During this time, I also realized that my platform could be leveraged for more than just entertainment. I began creating educational content for aspiring creators, sharing tips on editing, storytelling, and building an audience. This pivot not only diversified my reach, but also solidified my authority in the digital space. People began to see me not just as a viral sensation, but as a mentor, someone who had overcome real adversity and could guide others. Financially, things were escalating as well. Brand deals became more lucrative, consulting work paid handsomely, and I was able to hire a small team to assist with production, marketing, and analytics. It was the first time I felt the tangible weight of responsibility. Every decision I made affected not just me, but my growing team. I was no longer the lone teenager filming videos in her bedroom. I was running a small creative enterprise. Yet the sabotage wasn't finished. The former collaborator escalated their tactics, spreading rumors, attempting to discredit my achievements, and even trying to lure my followers away. It was stressful, and for a brief moment, I wondered if I could withstand the pressure. But then I remembered the countless nights spent editing in silence, the moments when every no and dismissal had fueled my persistence. I had survived ridicule before, I could survive this. I responded with grace, letting my work speak louder than the noise. Every video I uploaded was better than the last, sharper, more polished, and more engaging. I highlighted my unique style and perspective without directly attacking my saboteur. Slowly, the truth became undeniable. My growth was genuine, my talent real, and my vision authentic. my audience noticed, and they rallied behind me, reinforcing my credibility and helping drown out the negativity. Around this time, an unexpected opportunity arose. A media company approached me with an offer to produce a short web series based on my content style. This was a turning point, the chance to transform my online presence into a more formal creative career. I poured myself into it, developing scripts, directing episodes, and overseeing production. It was exhausting, but exhilarating. Every lesson from the past, the nights of editing alone, the viral breakthrough, the sabotage, I used to elevate the series to a level far beyond my initial expectations. The premiere of the series was a revelation. Viewership numbers exceeded anything I had imagined. Media outlets praised the authenticity and humor of my content, and I began receiving invitations to speak at creative conferences. Suddenly, the person who had once been dismissed as a talentless dreamer was being recognized as a rising force in the digital media world. The irony wasn't lost on me. Those who had laughed at me, those who doubted me, now watched from the sidelines as my influence expanded. With growing authority came bigger challenges. I had to learn management, leadership, and delegation. My small team needed guidance, motivation, and a shared vision. I found myself mentoring others, teaching them not only technical skills but also resilience, the mental toughness required to survive criticism, sabotage, and the endless pressures of a growing platform. This was new territory for me, but I embraced it. Every lesson I learned from my struggles became a tool to elevate others. Meanwhile, my former collaborator was beginning to fade into irrelevance. Their attempts at sabotage failed because they had underestimated my persistence, my ability to innovate, and the loyalty of my audience. They tried to replicate my content, but it lacked authenticity. They tried to claim credit, but my documented work and consistent presence proved ownership. The harder they fought, the more obvious it became to everyone that they had lost control. By the end of this chapter in my life, I had transformed completely. The girl who had been laughed at, the teenager told she had no talent, had become a content creator with a growing empire, a mentor to others, and a respected figure in the digital media space. I had learned to navigate criticism, to turn setbacks into strategy, and to protect my work without losing my voice. The lessons of rejection and sabotage became tools of empowerment. And yet, the ultimate victory was still ahead. I had survived ridicule, triumphed over sabotage, and proven my talent to the world. But I realized the true test wasn't in external validation. It was in mastery over my own creativity, in the ability to turn a viral moment into sustained influence, and in transforming doubt into action. That journey was far from over. The path forward was clear. Expand beyond digital platforms, explore collaborations with established media, create content that left lasting impact, and solidify my place as a creator who could not be dismissed. Every step I had taken, every challenge I had overcome, had prepared me for this moment. I was no longer just the person who went viral by chance. I was the architect of my destiny, capable of building a lasting legacy from the very seeds that once seemed so fragile. I leaned back in my chair one evening, watching analytics climb higher than ever before. I smiled, knowing that every dismissive word, every obstacle, and every challenge had led me here. This wasn't just about fame or success. It was about resilience, mastery, and proving, most importantly to myself, that talent can't be denied when paired with relentless determination. And as I closed my laptop that night, exhausted but exhilarated, I realized something profound. The journey wasn't just about building a career. It was about rewriting the narrative, about transforming every no and every dismissal into evidence of my own potential. The world had once laughed at me, but now the world had no choice but to watch. The day I had been dreaming of, the moment that would validate every struggle, every sleepless night, every insult, finally arrived. I had been invited to speak at a major media conference, a stage filled with the very industry leaders who had once doubted me. As I walked up to the podium, I felt a calm confidence that was entirely new. The laughter, the criticism, the doubts, they all belonged to a past version of myself. Now I was standing as the creator, the strategist, the one who had turned viral luck into sustained influence. The audience erupted in applause as I began to speak, but my attention wasn't on them. It was on the journey that had brought me here. I told my story, not just of success, but of every rejection that had built resilience, every betrayal that had sparked strategy, and every obstacle that had honed my focus. I spoke about the power of persistence, the importance of originality, and the value of believing in one's own vision. By the end, I wasn't just a viral sensation. They saw me as a leader, someone who had mastered the art of creativity under pressure. But success at this scale brought new challenges. Competitors attempted to imitate my style, algorithms shifted unpredictably, and the media landscape changed overnight. There were moments when the old fear of failure crept in, the voice that had told me I was talentless whispering in my ear. Yet this time, I had tools to fight back: strategy, data, loyal audience, and a team I had built with care. Each challenge became an opportunity to innovate, to diversify, and to solidify my brand in ways I hadn't imagined when I first posted that fateful video. One of the defining moments came when I launched my own platform, an independent space where creators could share content without the constraints and biases of traditional algorithms. It was a direct response to the sabotage I had faced earlier, a way to give back to the community that had supported me. The platform became a haven for creativity, attracting emerging talent who wanted mentorship and guidance. Watching others thrive because of a system I had designed brought a deeper sense of fulfillment than viral views ever could. The former collaborator, the one who had tried to derail me, remained a minor presence, struggling to regain relevance. I never sought revenge, I let the work speak for itself. It was poetic justice. They had invested energy into tearing me down while I had built something enduring. Their attempts at sabotage only highlighted the contrast between my resilience and their short-sightedness. My growth wasn't dependent on them, but every misstep they made reinforced the path I had chosen. Financially, things were exploding. Brand partnerships, sponsorships, speaking engagements, and my own platform revenue had multiplied into a global empire. I could afford luxuries, yes, but more importantly, I could reinvest in creative projects, support new talent, and build a sustainable ecosystem. Money was no longer the measure of my worth. It was a tool to amplify influence, drive innovation, and empower others. One quiet evening, I reflected on the very first viral video that had launched my career. The memory of doubt of the person who laughed at me was vivid. I realized that every insult, every dismissal had been a stepping stone. The very people who had once scorned my dreams were now watching me shape an industry. It wasn't just personal triumph, it was a statement to the world. Talent paired with persistence and strategy is unstoppable. Recognition came in waves. Invitations to collaborate with international creators, features in prominent media outlets, and partnerships with brands I had once only admired. But the most rewarding moments were not the accolades, they were the messages from people whose lives I had touched. Young creators who had been doubted, laughed at, or ignored wrote to say that my journey had inspired them to keep going. That was the kind of validation that mattered most. And then came the ultimate test of my authority, an opportunity to speak at a global innovation summit. As I stood before hundreds of industry leaders, investors, and creators from around the world, I realized that the girl who had been told she had no talent was now shaping the future of digital media. I wasn't just surviving, I was leading. The laughter of skeptics had faded into irrelevance, replaced by respect and acknowledgement of what I had built. At this point, it wasn't just about career success. I had become a symbol of perseverance, a testament to the fact that setbacks and ridicule could be transformed into momentum. I could see the impact of my work rippling outward. Creators gaining opportunities they never imagined, audiences experiencing authentic content, and an industry evolving to reward innovation rather than connections alone. My influence was tangible, and it was meaningful. And then, a moment of poetic closure. I encountered the person who had laughed at me, the one who had called me talentless with that sneer that haunted my early days. They approached me at an event, attempting to be cordial, perhaps hoping to reclaim a connection. I smiled politely, feeling no anger, only a calm acknowledgement of how far I had come. Without a word about the past, I extended a professional courtesy, knowing that the true victory wasn't in confrontation, it was in what I had achieved. My work, my empire, and my integrity spoke louder than any insult ever could. As the summit concluded, I realized that my journey had come full circle. The viral video that had seemed like a fleeting moment of luck was, in truth, the spark that ignited a career built on resilience, strategy, and relentless passion. I had faced ridicule, sabotage, and doubt, and emerged not only successful but untouchable in my craft. The girl who had been laughed at 18 had transformed into a leader, a mentor, and a creator whose voice commanded attention worldwide. In the quiet after the applause and the conference lights dimming, I understood the ultimate truth. Success isn't about proving others wrong. It's about proving to yourself that your vision, talent, and perseverance can withstand the harshest scrutiny. It's about turning a single moment, one viral video, one act of courage, into a life of impact, influence, and legacy. I left the stage that night with a sense of peace I had never known. The journey had been grueling, the lessons hard-earned, but the victory was complete. Every insult, every doubt, every moment of despair had been transformed into the foundation of something extraordinary. And in that transformation, I discovered the true meaning of success. Not just fame, not just recognition, but mastery over yourself, your craft, and the narrative of your own life. I had become more than the person who went viral. I had become the person who defined what it meant to rise, to persist, and to triumph against all odds.